Chapter 11. Bleeding. A blue Ford F-350 pickup truck with full-size monster truck wheels revved its engine loudly as it drove down the tarmacked lane to Brad Wesley's oversized ranch house. It was followed closely by a new, but plain-looking, Black Eagle Premier. When the two vehicles arrived at the house, all the occupants got out, some more readily than others. There were 5 of them in all. A battered Pat McGurn was at the center of the group, a small bandage over his broken nose. Beside him stood an equally worse-for-wear-looking Tinker and the tall man, O'Connor. They were flanked by the suit-and-tie-wearing Carpis and the muscular Ketchum, who had been driving the big truck. Wesley walked out of his house and went to meet them just outside the front door, casually smoking a cigar as he went. His bodyguard, Jimmy, followed closely behind. Wesley gave a disappointed sigh when he finally stopped and looked at the state of the group. He eyed his nephew, then waited until Pat had walked up the stairs and into the house, before addressing the rest of them. "Did I explain it wrong?" he asked, feigning confusion, arms spread wide. He walked over to the line of men and continued along it, like a general inspecting his soldiers. "Is that it?" It was O'Connor who spoke up first. No, boss, you didn't," he said in his deep voice. "Pat's got a weak constitution," Wesley went on, as if he felt bad for the poor fool. "You boys know that, and that's why he's working as a bartender." O'Connor was nodding to show he was listening, but Tinker was just staring straight ahead, worried about what would come next. He'd been in one of these lineups before, and wasn't happy to be here again. "He's my only sister's son," Wesley explained. "And if he doesn't have me, who's he got?" He shrugged his shoulders. "And if I'm not there, you're there," he said, waving his hand at his men. "I should have let you go, Jimmy," he concluded, firmly grabbing his top man's neck. He meant it too. Jimmy hadn't let him down yet. Not like these others. He looked at O'Connor and Tinker. "Well, one of you boys owes me an apology," he stated simply, a sad note in his tone, as if it was a shame it had come to this. "Now, I'll leave it up to you to decide which one of you wants to say, 'I'm sorry.'" Tinker quickly saw his opportunity to maybe be saved. He whipped off his cap and held it in both hands like a man entering a church. "I'm sorry, boss," he said solemnly, eyes on the ground. "I'm sorry, boss," O'Connor chimed in a second later. A second too late. Wesley reached out and ruffled the first man's hair. "I believe you, Tinker," he said, putting his hand on the fat man's chest and pushing him back behind him. "But you, O'Connor, somehow I don't believe you," he went on, staring the tall man in his eyes. He looked away, and O'Connor started to feel alone as he realized he was now the focus of everyone's attention, and Jimmy was starting to circle him like a shark that smelled blood. "Now, you better try it again," Wesley offered. "Because if there's one thing I can't stand, it's a man who's untruthful." O'Connor jumped at the chance. I'm sorry, boss," he repeated, trying to sound as truthful as possible. Wesley continued talking over him. "And if there's one thing that disgusts me, it's a man who can't admit when he's wrong." I swear to God, boss," O'Connor tried again. "I'm sorry." "You disgust me, O'Connor," Wesley said, stepping back in front of him. "You want to know why you disgust me?" No. Why, boss?" the tall man asked quickly, and stupidly. Wesley cracked him in the face with a quick right straight. It wasn't enough to put him down, but it was enough to bust his nose wide open. "'Cause you're a bleeder," Wesley told him when he saw that. "You bleed too much." He stepped closer to the man. "You are a messy bleeder," he informed him, then smashed his knee between the taller man's legs, dropping him much quicker with that method than Dalton had the night before. O'Connor groaned as he collapsed to his knees. "You're weak," Wesley said, looking down at him. "You've got no endurance for pain," he added as he delivered a clubbing hammer fist to the back of the man's exposed neck. He smiled, and the rest of the group laughed as O'Connor curled to the floor to avoid any more punishment. "Ah, come on," Wesley said, reaching down and patting the collapsed man on the back. "Get up." O'Connor tried to stand, but quickly fell back in a heap. Wesley looked at the others. "Well, help him up," he told them. Jimmy and Ketchum hooked an armpit each and dragged O'Connor to his feet. They held him there for a moment while he swayed, then let go when he finally regained his balance. Wesley looked at O'Connor. "You're gonna be fine," he told him, walking back to stand in front of him. "And you know why?" He smiled a friendly smile. "Because I like you." Below the stream of blood running down from his nose, O'Connor gave a smile in return, thinking that it might be okay after all. Then Wesley thudded a right hook into his jaw, and the tall man collapsed to the tarmac like a felled tree. "Get this piece of shit coward out of here," Wesley told the others gruffly, and headed back into the house. When Dalton pulled up to Red's store, 2 men were sat out front in a red Mustang. They reversed out as he arrived. It looked like the same car that had nearly run him off the road a while back. The smug-looking shirt-and-tie-wearing man in the passenger seat he didn't recognize, but the driver was Brad Wesley's right-hand man. Dalton had a bad feeling. He walked into the store and expected to see Red appear at the till or call out as the door's bell chimed. Instead, he was met with silence. Further into the store, he saw shelf loads of goods had been tossed across the room. Plastic containers of motor oil had been punctured and were leaking onto the floor. "Jesus," he said quietly to himself. "Red?" he called out. "Red!" He tried again, when he got no reply, louder this time. "Yeah?" came Red's tired voice from the back of the store, and a moment later he emerged, wheeling a mop and a bucket. Dalton was relieved that the old man was okay. "What happened?" he asked. "Did you get robbed?" "Every week," Red answered, pulling out the mop and making a point of not meeting his eye. Dalton sighed, understanding what was going on. He'd seen this before. Almost everywhere he'd worked, there'd always been someone who made their living not from hard work of their own, but from taking from someone who actually put in the time and the effort to try and make a better life for themselves. Good folks like Red who, for whatever reason, had nobody to help them fight back. Dalton stood silently for a moment, watching Red get to work. He didn't like the feeling of being a bystander, but he'd also seen what getting involved could get you. Sometimes, especially in a small town like this, away from the bigger outfits like those older institutions you'd find back east, it was possible to put down the local goons and buy some peace, for a time at least. But Dalton also knew, and had seen, that if you messed with the wrong one, people could end up dead. Good folks like Red again. He leant on the shop's counter, reminding himself that he'd made it a rule to stay out of the local politics. On the wall behind the till, he saw some old framed pictures of classic cars. A younger Red stood in front of one proudly. Next to those, unmistakably, was a photo of the doc from the other night. Glasses off, hair let down, just as beautiful as he thought she would be. He wondered what her connection was to Red. "So, what does he take?" he asked after a minute, breaking his own rule. "Who?" replied Red, as if he didn't know. "Brad Wesley," Dalton said. Red stopped his mopping for a moment and looked at Dalton with a sigh. 10%, he said, as he resumed the cleanup. "To start." Protection money, thought Dalton. Only you end up paying more the more you pay it. "Oh, it's all legal like," Red went on. "He formed the Jasper Improvement Society. All the businesses in town belong to it." "Everybody pay?" Dalton asked. Red looked up and scoffed, leaning on his mop. "Does a hobby horse have a wooden dick?"